Late.
Okay.
Good morning.
All right. We are live. Guys, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
How are you?
We think we come on like 5 or 10 minutes before on pregame. That's what we don't. We all show up like 1 minute before.
Yeah.
Which is good. Which means that whoever is listening is getting genuine conversation because that's how we roll. But
That's right.
Hey, we're here, right?
Yeah.
We're making it happen.
Exactly. I'm going to be real this morning. It's coffee with closers. You all drinking coffee. I am a soda pop for my caffeine guy. I have a Pepsi Zero in my hand. I have to tell you, I'm not going to fake it anymore. So this is my coffee of choice. Horrible for me, but I'm going to throw that out there. So,
hey, honesty. Right. I like it.
That's right. Nothing wrong with that. That's good.
Yeah.
So I got myself a coffee here, though. I'm ready to go.
What's going on in business, boys? What's going on?
It's good. It's a little it's hectic, but it's good. It's a good hectic, you know. We're focusing. We're trying to build out the creative finance side of the business for us. So we still got the wholesale and the flips going, still happening. We close on one Friday and a new one that we're going to flip. So that's good. We should have one being staged on Monday. It will do a kind of listing on Thursday next week, and then we have the open house on Sunday, I think. So we got that happening. We got more deals that we're working. But yeah, going to try and start adding some creative financing in. But yeah, that's what I've got going on. All good.
Tell us a little bit about what do you mean by that, Gavin? What do you when you say you're going to add some creative finance? Is that on the purchase side and the acquisition? Is that going to be on the disposition side? How are you doing it? Because there's so many different ways.
Yeah,
I want to learn something new today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know me, you know my thought process. How do I do none of it, right? And I'm happy to do it, but I don't want to be the one doing it. So I have a partner on the creative side coming in, Dustin, he lives in California, and he's done tons and tons of deals from acquisition roles to sub-twos, creative finance, lease options in multiple states. So what we're doing is we're going to be taking... There's two things. We're taking my current leads in the markets I'm in. I'm going to be trying to do creative finance on the seller side, right? Taking them down on sub-two or owner finance or lease options, okay? And then also working with other people that are doing wholesaling that aren't focusing on creative. So if some terms are to be done, we can come in and kind of work them leads. So working people's dead leads, or if they need help closing it and JV and things like that. So that's what we're building. So I guess more on the seller side, but we'll sell on any of them. But I wouldn't say on the selling it's more acquiring on to the seller, getting control and then dispoing accordingly, depending on the deal.
Got it. So you're going to be typically using sub-two and lease option, I'd imagine, or owner finance. Typically, those three probably make up about 90%, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe all of it, even. It just depends. But each of those obviously can get really creative and so on and so forth. So
yeah, we were talking this morning. I just got off a coaching call, and literally with creative finance, that's exactly what it is. I think if you keep it legal, right, and then two parties agree, then anything can be in a contract. I mean, literally any terms that you can think of that you all agree on can be done, and I think that's the that's the goal, and it's solving problems, right? It's being a solutions company of solving problems, listening to the sellers, but there's always a time and a place as well for when creative should happen. Where are you? What stage in your investing career are you? Like Don's done a lot of creative stuff. You're the bird guy, right? We don't do any birds, but you do. And I think it just depends on investing what you want, but don't try and do everything. If you've never done a deal, like the worst thing you can do is try and just keep hopping strategies, trying to grab a deal. Cause it's brutal.
I agree. 100%.
It's brutal, you know? Yeah. I think wholesaling, in my opinion, runs everything. Wholesaling is the basic, the entry level, the one that then gets you in the door to then take the flip down. Like someone said, we don't buy if I can't wholesale it. I handpick my best deals because I want to be making 50, 60K spreads on my flips, or I'll wholesale it and try and make 10, 15.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my preference. So, yeah.
Love it, man. I love it. I agree completely with you on that. I often, spread myself thin by trying to do too many things. And, whenever I reel it back in and I say, hey, let's just focus on what we're good at, or focus on, what's working, the business always does a whole lot better than when we're trying to do all this, extra stuff. So,
yeah. And it's kind of, you're 100% right. And I see it. And we're guilty as well. Like, why go and start a new strategy for something else to go? Like, let's say you were wholesaling 10 deals a month, right? And then all of a sudden you want to be creative finance, but now you're going to do 5 wholesale deals a month to go and try and learn creative finance. It doesn't make any sense, right? And we do it all the time because we think we should be doing it. When we're in masterminds and you've got these guys doing all these things, and it's like, oh, wow, I should be doing more. I'm not doing enough. But you have to look at the whole structure of the business as well, So I think we're all guilty. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever the saying is, and
shiny object syndrome. Like you said it best. You go to masterminds, like drinking from a fire hose. You get all this information, all these new ideas. you gotta sift through. You gotta learn to sift through. Like, what is somebody, what's been tried and true and tested? Like, what is somebody actually doing in their business when they get up and they're doing their hot seat and they're talking about it? And what is it they're getting up and sharing that they haven't tried yet, or just starting to try, and they're kind of maybe embellishing a little bit because they have to, share something, right? And there's been a few things through my years in masterminds where I've heard something and then learned the hard way. I went back and started to try it too, that they were doing, and supposedly it was great. And then 3 months later, we'd show up at a mastermind and they would say, yeah, well, that didn't really work out for us, and it didn't work out for me as well. So being able to sift through that as well is another thing why it's important to kind of stick to what works and what doesn't work. Ultimately, at the end of the day, my curse is that I'm like this. I'm doing the one thing that I do. It took me forever to add wholesaling to my operation, and it was the smartest thing I ever did. And then I started in 2003 doing sub 2. I did sub 2 for 5 years, but I avoided sub 2 like the plague forever, for whatever reason. I don't even know why. And we just started closing on sub 2s again. So balance, I think, is good. You don't want to have blinders on, but you don't want to be doing everything. So,
yeah, man. Speaking of going to masterminds and like drinking from a fire hose, I'm the worst. I'll take like 20 pages of notes, and then I'll get home and I'll try to implement some of this stuff, and then I'll try to implement more of this stuff. And then before you know it, I got like 300 tabs on my browser open, and I'm half-assing, 30 different things. And then again, I have to reel it back in, so just, man, don't do that.
No, it is. But I think it's good for us to be honest, because just like it's your first and you buy every course on the shelf, right, as people doing, and they're going through every training and doing nothing, like as you go through, and you're always, it's hard. It's hard to stay. It's discipline, isn't it? It's trying to stay disciplined. And not, because when someone's like, I won't even say what the service is, right? Me and you, we just purchased a service to find all the buyers, right? The investor lists.
Yep.
Got on the onboarding, not opened it.
Yeah.
Spent the money, purchased it, done absolutely nothing.
Same. And I have on my schedule to try to get back into more of these onboardings.
Yeah, done nothing. Like,
time is the limited thing, right? So.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you two completely sold me on it. Both of you, no brainer, you've got to get it. I bought this thing that never seen it, and I go on to the onboarding, and I said, I have no idea why I'm here. I don't even know what this thing is. And he's like, you've not even seen the demo. I was like, no. I was like, they said I got to get it, so boom, I'm getting it. And that's how crazy sometimes it's. Because it's the fear of missing out. I can't miss an opportunity when 2 people are saying you got to do it. Like, you need to get it. And I'm like, all right, I'm getting it. And I don't even know what it is.
FOMO is a bitch, yo.
Exactly. It is. And I've done nothing. I've onboarded. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Done nothing. And it's just like, what? We're no different.
I love that. I love that you shared that. It is the entrepreneurial disease, right? When is enough enough? And then we're dealing with an industry that's constantly changing, right? The market, the cycles are changing. How we buy, what we buy, why we buy is constantly shifting and changing. So we can't just be stagnant. We have to be changing. We're always chasing that next new great thing. But at the same time, again, it goes back to that balance. And then we want to take it all in. And I'm guilty of it. I paid somebody, and I'm not even going to say who, 40 grand a couple of years ago to go through their mastermind about marketing and everything else. And I never went. I never did anything.
Oh no, that's a ton of money to spend and not do anything, man. Holy cow.
And I'm only saying that because we try to take all these things on and then we get busy and when we can't and we can't do all these things. So it's a balance. Going back to balance again, it's important. Balance is so important. Either that or bringing somebody in on your team that can handle these things. I mean, identifying whether or not you're a visionary or an integrator is important. I think the three of us on here are classic visionaries. You know, I love the idea of some of these things, but to get in the weeds is like drinking bleach, right?
100%.
So, and I think recognizing that and understanding that, okay, well, I'm not going to do it and being honest with yourself. So I need to find somebody that I can bring in to do it for me. Dave, you know, is a VA hoarder who's classic at doing that, bringing in a VA for everything.
I literally, just like doubled the team, and I'm like, I don't know what these VAs are going to be doing for you, but you go for it. You're like, I'll get it. I've got another VA for it.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, you know, there's pros and cons, of course, right? So I've been spending a lot of time lately training, but it's going to be great once they're trained because then I can not do a lot of these other tasks and then have more time to go look into the new stuff that we're looking at, like Investor Lift and, you know, so on and so forth. So, but pros and cons.
Why is it so hard? Okay. Why is it so hard for us to do that? Like you're being disciplined and training, but honestly, reality, because most of us entrepreneurs are that way. I know if I sit down and spend the time training somebody, that's going to get it off my plate. But the idea of sitting down and spending time trying to pour what's in here out into them, I'd rather slam my head in the door.
I know, man.
It's brutal.
So, but that's going to make our life immensely easier. Why is it so hard?
Mm-hmm. I want to take someone on. I just want you to do it, and I don't want to get it from here to it. Can't you just figure it out?
I struggle because I get frustrated easily. So it's like, you know, if I have to show it several times, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
So, but you're absolutely right, Don. If you just put that on the front of your list, right on the top of the list, and you are able to, you know, get that stuff out of here and get them on board and get them trained, man, it's that those tasks go away essentially. Yep. You still have to kind of manage them and a little bit here and there, but your time shrinks for, you know, the amount of time you have to spend on these items. It shrinks dramatically. Right. So
one thing you could do, Dave, if you haven't already, you might already do this, but your lead VAs that are really good, you need to get them to create all the training material while they're with you in case they leave. So get them to do all the training videos for you. So the next person in, you go and watch these. Once you've watched them 2 or 3 times, come back and show me how you're going to do it. That's kind of what my training model is now. It works really well. Because if they can't show me,
How are you making videos? Are you using like Loom or
Loom, Streamcast-O-Matic, where they just record the screen and take them through the process, and then they document everything, and that becomes the new training. So the next person in, or if they change out, all that's done. They watch them, and then all I do is say, "Hey, someone on the team or me, show me how you're going to do whatever you've been trained on." If they can't show me, I know then they need more training. Or if they do it, like, okay, you got it, let's go. Just an idea.
I love it. I use both of those as well, Loom and Screencast as well. I love it. The only thing that makes that, and I'm not trying to be negative Nancy, don't take this the wrong way, right? You guys know that's not me. That's not my MO. But what's frustrating though is you do a training on a software and then the software changes.
It changes,
The layout changes, the UI, the user interface, maybe even what that software does.
Yes.
So it's just it's one of these things. It's kind of like dirty laundry. You're always
another reason someone else should be doing it. Because then you go, hey, the prop streams move the button. Now it's not there in that drop down. It's over here in another area. And now my training went, and then everyone's going, the button's not there, the button or whatever you're doing. I'm like, why have you had to move that? Really?
I know. I love
get
it.
it.
Man.
I get it.
I love it. But yeah, I have been putting a lot of time. And in fact, I was on this morning for about an hour and a half with two of my different VAs, teaching them some new things. And I am going to be on probably for 3 to 4 hours this afternoon. I got a closing that I got to go sign on. But other than that, literally the rest of my day, I have planned to just teach these team members, my virtual assistants, how to help me be more efficient, right? And it's going to be great once it's all done, of course. But yeah, it can definitely be a project. So
I guess, Don, you asked a good question though. Like, I guess as entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call us, like one of the big things is, and why I think we're all in the multipliers, is to try and get the balance. Like I have a good lifestyle and I travel and I work from anywhere and I've achieved that, but I'm definitely on too much in my mind's going all the time. So sometimes I'm not present. A lot of the time I'm not present. So I'm not going to deny I'm not. Where we're having a conversation, we could be at dinner and I'm thinking about, a new list that needs to go out. I don't know, whatever it is, right? And it's trying to, shut that off. Do you guys struggle with that as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's been an issue for me through the years. I have 3 kids too, so and it's been something that I've had to be very mindful about, and still it's tough. I'll have family over, we'll have a barbecue or something, and I'll be thinking about something with work. I'll be thinking about something with content. I'll be thinking about and that's part of the curse, I think.
Yeah.
Like we talk about, there's people listening to this or they'll watch this at some point, that they want a laptop lifestyle. They want to work from the beach. That's Gavin, you want to work from your RV, right? There are people who want to retire at 30 and not do anything. And there are people like me, and I've said this 100 times, that I'll be building businesses until I drop dead. I mean, that's just what I like to do. I don't, idle time for me is the worst thing ever. My mind starts going 100 miles an hour and off in 50 different directions, and I'm daydreaming. And so it's always a challenge. Sleep, I don't sleep a lot. I go to bed at midnight, 1 a.m, and I'm up at 6 usually. So you're talking about 5-6 hours of sleep a night. And part of that's just because I'm nocturnal by nature, and my mind kicks in about 10 in the evening and just goes 100 miles an hour. It's a blessing and a curse, because some of my best ideas happen then, but I can't sleep.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, how do you, I think there are a lot of people watching this that suffer from that. I mean, we're always striving for more. And I don't know about you guys. I didn't come from money as a kid, so where is that point when enough is enough?
And I don't know. I think and I think people, bringing that up, people are in the W-2 jobs, right? I mean, it's no different. They're trying to get into this business because they're at the W-2 job thinking about real estate. They get home, then they have kids and dinner, and they're thinking about real estate. And now they've actually got to work in the evening to even get anywhere, right? To kind of make it happen. So I think everyone that's trying to do the business struggles with it. But, I think the thing that I'm trying to do more is just plan it better. Using a schedule to try and, like Dave just said, he's got 4.5 hours or whatever today, and he's doing this in that window. I think smart, and it's something that I'm trying to do as well, and just do my best to kind of turn off as best you can. But the mind's powerful. I say to my wife all the time, like it's easy to say, but it's so hard to do. Because if we're not, you know what I mean. I wish I could just turn it off.
Yeah,
but I can't.
And part of it is, first we're obligated to the dream, right? Like you said, we have a W-2 job, or we're trying to make it happen. We're obligated to dream, and therefore we're constantly thinking about that. And then we start to build a business, and we're obligated to our family to provide. We're obligated to our employees to create stability. There's this this sense of an obligation or loyalty to the team you build around you and the people you care about to constantly make sure this is all here. For me, I lost everything once. We talk about that. I lost everything. I had $1 million judgment against me. I didn't file bankruptcy. I've worked my way out of it. And there's always that in the back of my head. I don't ever want to go back there again.
Yeah.
You know, so even when I'm super comfortable, I'm still always thinking about that next step or that next move to make sure that everything stays okay. Right.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's ever going to go away, you know. And how do you turn it off? I mean, you know, I just try when I go home not to think about work. One of the things I did for a long time, and this is changing, but I didn't have a place to work at home. I didn't have a sufficient computer or anything in my home where I could do work. And so that was one of the things I did. I created a situation where I couldn't work at home. Now, you know, I hate having to run to the office to do stuff like this. So I'm, you know, in my new house, I'm putting a little office in there where I can actually do content and stuff. But, you know, but I'm going to make sure that during certain hours, I'm allowed to go in that room.
Yeah. And I work from, I mean, I'm in my office at home. That's the only office I have. Unless I'm traveling. So yeah, you know, it's hard to, you know, I did it at the weekend. Like my wife, she fell asleep in the afternoon and we're trying to watch a show. She fell asleep. I'm up, I'm on the computer. Like, do you know what I mean? It's, and I'm supposed to be chilling out and having some time off. And it's difficult, you know, it's difficult because there's always stuff to do. You're never ahead, right? You're never ahead because there's always something you can be doing. And, go on.
I'll say people are listening to this. They're like, why get into this business?
Exactly. Yeah. Business in general, really. Any business owner will say the same thing. But we don't have to. I think it's because we like it, and I don't know what it is, but it's definitely there, and I think everyone struggles with it, you know. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. But anyway, we got any questions coming in? I know a few people are watching. Has someone got some questions? What are you struggling with? What questions do you have? Start typing them in.
Yeah, time blocking, guys, is definitely something that's helped me recently. You know, I often struggle with, you know, just basically when a problem comes, I try to drop everything that I'm doing and fix that problem. And that's not always the best case because often you don't even get the problem fixed. You just kind of half-ass it. But then you've dropped the ball completely on what you were working on when that problem came in. So it's better to say, okay, cool, let's all focus on scheduling this, you know, a fix or even a conversation this evening or tomorrow morning or sometime other than now. Now isn't always the best time because now you're typically working on something, right? Now, if you're not, you're sitting on the couch, it's a different story. But that's one thing that I've really been struggling with. And, you know, even more so, something that I've really been trying to make an effort to fix is to not be so reactive throughout the day in real time. You know, obviously I'm not pushing this stuff off or disregarding it completely, but if I'm working on something, I'm going to turn my phone off. If emails and Slacks are coming in about stuff, I'm going to ignore them temporarily to finish the task at hand, right? I have so many open items on my to-do list. And lately I've just been saying, you know what? I'm not even going to add anything to this list unless I cross something off of it. So therefore, if I have stuff I want to add, then I better get to work cleaning it up. Yeah. You know, and it's really helped. But
it's discipline again, though. It's the word discipline.
Right.
Discipline and balance.
It is. Because I do the same. If I put something in, like I'm recording content right now for a course, but I know, like, I'm just being honest, that if Dave starts calling me, I'm answering. If I'm not in mid-video mode,
a friend or somebody you respect,
I'm answering it. Family, and then we're talking for 30 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I've just lost 30 minutes. Like, what? And I didn't. What did we actually talk about or get anywhere? It's brutal, but it's discipline to say I'm not answering that. But I'm a talker. I'm a sales guy. What I do is talk. Anything to get me off anything to do with, you know, like that kind of stuff, and it's like a distraction and I'm looking for it, right? If I was an introvert and didn't want to talk to anyone, it'd seem much easier to do. But I'm like, oh, Don's calling. I wonder what does Don want? Now if I don't answer, I'm thinking about what did he want. Like, I'm gonna
call you like 3 times a day just to say hi.
Exactly. I'm like, hey,
you know he's gonna answer.
That's funny.
Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, let's we don't have, it doesn't look like we have any questions coming in. So if you have questions, make sure you're asking them. On the closing side of things, I've been getting back on the phones, believe it or not, lately. one of the things we talked about last week was I wanted to kind of rebuild some things. And I got on the phone last week and, had a couple conversations with sellers. Yesterday, I got on the phone and closed the deal. Took me all of a few minutes. One of the things, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I make my team better? And we talked about this before, but, we got to make sure that we're able to pull the stuff out of our head and pour into our people, right? And not knowing exactly what I do and why I do it, I thought it was important to get back on the phones. And the call yesterday, just to give a little bit of closing advice, was essentially a laydown. I'm not even going to take credit for the fact that we were able to that I was able to close it, because the guy was ready to sell. But ultimately, at the end of the day, one of the things I've noticed that some people do when they're closing, when they get a call like that, is they'll talk too much and they'll talk the seller out of signing the contract.
Yeah.
Or they'll talk themselves they'll talk themselves in their own head out of actually taking that to the close. And I actually recorded that. I'm going to put that out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was about just confirming the information and saying less is the reason why I got the contract as quickly as I did. So I want to throw that out there. Sometimes we talk our sellers out of the close, and I didn't realize that my team has a habit of doing that every once in a while, until I got on the phone yesterday and I had that for all intents and purposes, a laydown. Anybody could have closed it, and had I said any more than I did, I probably would have not got that contract.
Yeah, so, and maybe it's I think because on the other side, like, they take longer. It's multiple phone calls, right? You got to dig deep and you're asking. And then when it hits you from nowhere, because it's out of the ordinary, it's like, oh, this isn't normal, so you start reacting to it and go, oh, let me make sure they're ready. And I'm just going to keep digging. And you know what I mean? And I think that's what happens because it's going too well and it doesn't normally go like this. So I think that's a great point to know that and go and catch yourself doing it. So that's really good.
Exactly. You feeling like you need to hit the script, right? You need to hit all the points on the script. Even though this person's ready to go, well, I still need to hit all the points on the script. You got to know when you need your script and when you don't. You got to know when you need to be off the cuff and when you should be scripted and all that kind of stuff. I think it's very important listening to what the seller is actually telling you and not worried about the next thing you need to say. All of that's important in talking to sellers. I think so many people in closing, so many people on here watching are so ingrained in making sure they hit the script or that next question they need to ask, so they're not hearing what the seller is actually telling them. And so many times, if you ask a pointed question, you shut up and let the seller talk, and then you respond to what they said with another question, you shut up and let them talk, they will tell you exactly how to close them, and they will almost close themselves.
Yeah, that's man, that is a gold nugget right there. I absolutely love that. I'm like the anti-script guy.
Right.
In my organization, I don't really like them. Now, what I do like is simple bullet points, just because if the conversation goes stale, then you need something to say, right? You don't want to be that awkward person that's not speaking. But I totally agree, Don. I love that you said that because, oftentimes when you're on the phone, even when you're in the field and you're with the seller, they may not want to talk about the property right away. And if you're the pushy person that's like trying to sell them on you being the buyer for that property, it's no different than somebody on the phone trying to sell you a new phone system. It's like, no, I don't want your phone system, right? Mm-hmm. No, I don't want you to buy the house right this second. Instead, I want to tell you about all this stuff that's in the garage and how it got here and what my plan is. And then I'm going to listen and I'm going to say, well, if you have a plan for it, great. But if you don't, I can buy this house with that stuff in there. I'll do that for you. Right. But that would have never necessarily came up without them telling me about the stuff in the garage. So just a random example, of course, here, but
absolutely.
But going on what they say is much better to carry the conversation. Take the conversation where they want to take the conversation, right? Yeah. Don't try to force it along your own path.
And that comes twofold. That's fantastic what you said. Absolutely. Because again, they're telling you exactly what their needs are, and they're telling you what result they want, and they're telling you basically how to close them, what solution to provide. We're solution providers. We're problem solvers. If you listen, they're going to tell you how to solve their problem.
Right.
The other thing too is like we had a conversation in here the other day, now that we're on a roll with this, and I was talking to one of my acquisitions people, and she asked me, they have this issue with this renter that they really care about, and how do I solve that problem? How do I make them feel better about this? And I asked her, have you asked them, what they think the solution should be? Right? Asking pointed questions again, sometimes solving the problem back on the seller as well, asking them some ideas they've thought about, some things they may have tried that may not have worked, or what they feel the best outcome would be, and then listening to what they're saying as well is another way of allowing them to tell you how to solve their problem. So letting them tell their story, or asking them what they've done as a solution or what they think the solution should be, are two ways to have them tell you how to close them.
Yeah, 100%. And while you're talking, right, you're not gathering information. That's the way that I look at it, right? You're making sales when you're listening. That's the whole point of a good salesperson, is to listen and then reuse that information back to the seller, right? That's all you're doing. You're recycling what they're telling you. If you're hitting on pain points or discussions or emotions or whatever. And I think, I got from Claude Diamond that sales is dangerous, because you can get people into an emotional state to make a decision that maybe isn't right. So I think you've got to do things in the right way. But I believe that if you can get them emotionally involved, I mean, you two did it to me. I just told you that. The emotion you gave me, I've made a decision, complete emotional, zero business thought into it, all emotional, and I'm all in, right?
Those are the best ones, right?
And they're the best ones. But if you've done it, but here's the thing, right? This could have been the worst software, the worst thing ever, and you could have been doing it as a big old laugh, and I've still bought it anyway, right? And that's the thing of playing on emotion, and that's the key when you're talking to sellers. You've got to be doing the things right way, because if you start playing on the heartstrings, you can literally get what you want. And it just needs to be right for them. That's all I'm saying. And while you're listening, and I'm with Dave, the questions, it's just ask a question, and then just interact with them on that, and then ask another question. You're just getting deeper and digging and find out what's going on.
Yeah, all fantastic. You mentioned Claude Diamond. I got to tell this story. Circa 2002, I didn't have two nickels to rub together, and I found Claude Diamond online. I reached out to Claude, and I'm like, I will take out your trash. I will mow your lawn. I will do whatever it takes. Just mentor me. And he basically told me, in Claude's terms, he basically said, you have no money, and you're going to be a waste of my time. And essentially, but the way that's what he said, and what I heard. But basically, what he said was, Don, in sales, you got to know when it's time to work with somebody, when it's not time to work with somebody, and it's not time to work with you. So, if you're ever going to be a good salesman, you need to know when to move on. And that was the end of our conversation. Hey, Claude, I got two fingers for you, buddy. So, yeah. But no, Claude's a good dude. I've interviewed him for the podcast now. I don't think I told him the story, but it's just funny. You mentioned his name, and Claude told me, like, you're not ready, buddy.
and he's not shy. He said, I'm in the business to make money today.
Yeah, I'm in the business.
And he means it. I'm in the business to make money today.
No, he's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. He's entertaining for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so cool. Great advice. I still don't, let's see. Can you guys look up deals? Ricardo Rosales.
That's our guy. Ricardo.
What's up, Ricardo?
Hey.
Oh God. Yeah. Can we lock up deals for him? Yeah. I'll lock up deals for you there, buddy. I want 110% of profit. So
yeah. Ricardo's good.
Man, I love Ricardo. He's the best. We got to get him on here.
You know
what I was thinking about it? We should ask the audience, the listeners, viewers, of course, here, who they want to see on here with us. Because, we are going to be inviting guests. Now, this is episode 3. So, we're still kind of getting the hang of this here. But we would love to bring guests on the show. So maybe we'll bring on Ricardo. Ricardo, I'm sure, is going to be a great resource to teach us a few things and share some gold nuggets. Maybe we'll see if we can't get him on, next week or the week after.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'd love to start bringing some people on the show and interviewing them. And, not only will they get hit with questions from Don, myself, and Gavin, but also you guys. I mean, that's really the whole purpose of this weekly show, is to interact with the people that are listening and viewing in real time. So we appreciate, everybody that's here right now. And we want to help, right? We have a vast amount of knowledge in real estate, the three of us, plus any guests that we, of course, bring on, right? And we all do, a little bit different stuff in terms of real estate when we are, really in our zone. So we have a lot of good resources to provide for everybody. And we all just love helping.
I think as well, I think it's important, like when we all don't agree. I quite like it, when we all not in a good way, because we do things different, and everyone's got their own spin on it. And I think that's good, because what we're demonstrating is more than one way to do something.
Ricardo says the week after. So not next week, but the week after. This is your official invite. So you're going to be on the show, not next week, but the week after. It'll be episode 5.
Perfect. All right. I'm
excited. He's the best.
He's a cool dude. We were with him in Key West as well, right? So So what do you guys think is the best for PPC, carrot or funnel type page, basically? So
it's a good question.
It's a great question. And so I don't do PPC. And I'm probably not qualified to answer this, and I don't know if you guys do PPC, but I will say what I've heard about PPC.
Let's hear it.
You need to have a page that's specifically geared towards making sure that Google likes it. It needs to load quickly.
Very quickly, right?
Very quickly. It needs to be clean. It needs to be to the point. Usually a video at the top of the page seems to work really well with PPC. And then, of course, the call to action at the top of the page, from what I'm told. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what I do know for a fact that anybody uses PPC, if you are going to do PPC, it becomes very expensive if you're not acting quickly on the leads. In other words, a lead comes in, you need to call it because that person is looking to solve a problem.
Right then and there.
And if you're not responding right away, they are moving on to the next one. So if you're going to invest in PPC, make sure you have a page that loads super, super fast, which means you're probably not going to want to have a pre-produced page like a carrot page. And you are going to want to have your team set up to where you can respond almost immediately when that lead comes in, be it notified via text or whatever when that lead comes in, so you can respond immediately. Otherwise, it's going to be a very expensive way to throw money away.
Yeah, you nailed it. Carrot's not bad. It's not a bad site by any means. Just don't try to build it out too intensively, right? So, one of the things that I have to constantly remind myself is when it comes to call to action, you don't want multiple choices. You want one choice, right? So, when it comes to carrot or any funnel type one-page site is what this person said, it doesn't really matter in my opinion. Speed is definitely key, not only in load times, but also in speed to lead, meaning how fast you can get them on the phone, right? If you're doing cold calling or other things, it still matters in terms of speed to lead, but it really matters with AdWords. 1, they're trying to solve their problem right now. 2, you're probably paying 3 to 10 times for that lead with AdWords than you are with most other types of lead sources, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, I actually use a carrot site currently for pay-per-click, but it's really, really, really dumbed down, right? There's not additional pages on that site. It's a landing page, one page basically. And it has, I think, 3 or 4 call to actions that all go to the same. It's all the same call to action. It's one call to action, right? Not 3 or 4, but there's 3 or 4 places on the site that can basically start that call to action. So speed on your website, speed to lead. And then, in terms of call to action, you want one thing: call this number or fill out this form, right? And that's basically it. Now, if you have that multiple times on the site, that's okay. Because again, the goal is to collect their information or get them to call you. But don't put on there the option to, fill out your website and then also a page where they can go learn more about your company, and then another page to see your experience, and then another page. Because what's going to end up happening is they're going to get lost, and then they're going to get tired, and they're not going to fill out that actual call to action. So simple is truly better. Less is
Yeah,
more.
and I think as Don said, it needs to be at the top. It's got to be the first thing they see, because if it's not simple, and they'll just go to the next one. And he's right as well. If you're not straight on it, they're going to go and search the next one in line in Google, and they're going to try that and fill it out again until someone gets on the phone with them. So really, really good. It's a good question.
That's a great question. Now, Investor Lift, which Gavin and Don and I are all kind of playing with. It's a new software. I was watching a demo the other day, and their sites are fast. Woo! 97, 98% fast in terms of the Google rating on speed when you go to Google page speed tests or whatnot. So I am curious to start playing around with those. But like you said earlier, Gavin, it's like whenever we find some time, right?
I have a fast page. I just don't do anything with it. Oh dear, funny.
So awesome. Gavin, are you doing any pay-per-click?
No, I'm not currently. No. I think, again, this is my opinion. I think if you're going to be a national wholesaler, I think it works fantastic if you're willing to work any market across the US or even statewide to keep the cost down. But when you start narrowing PPC down to targeted markets, the cost per lead is just insane. The last people I talked to in Phoenix, I have a few friends that were doing it. They're paying, $450, $550 a lead. It's just insane. To me, it just doesn't make any sense for targeted. So it just doesn't work for me. But I think if I had the team where I was like, I'm just going to be a nation wide, I'm going to go anywhere, then you get the cost per lead down. You're probably looking at 40, 50, 60 bucks, 65 bucks a lead. Then I would think something like that. It's more affordable to lock up motivation kind of anywhere. And if you have the sales team to be able to sell on a virtual level and pop up in Michigan or Ohio and then California or wherever you're doing it, then it makes sense. Well, that's kind of my reasons. I've tried it in Birmingham. We work 31 zip codes, and just can't. It's just too expensive. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it depends on your market. Definitely, it definitely depends on your market. The more it's just the nature of AdWords in general or pay-per-click in general is a auction. This is how it typically works. So if you have, two people in a market, they're going to be competing against each other. It's maybe not get bid up too much. But if you have 200 people in a market trying to do it, yeah, I can see how it's easily going to get up to that $400 or $500 per lead, right? So, my advice would be just play with it, start learning it, especially with, the changes to the TCPA, right? The Traced Act and whatnot. I don't really know exactly what that's going to look like. In fact, I don't think most people do yet, right? But I definitely do not have all my eggs right now in the cold calling and cold texting basket. The majority of my leads are coming in that way right now. But what we have done recently, and I think this is really good advice for people that are only doing cold calling or only doing cold texting right now. I think that what you should maybe consider doing is, diluting a little bit of those efforts and putting them into something else that isn't going to be affected by those changes, right? So some of the things that we are doing, Ricardo says nobody knows about TCPA. Even the carriers don't know how it's going to be rolled out. He's exactly right.
This is going to be huge when he gets on, because this guy, when it comes to texting, is different level. So it's going to be good to get his thoughts on what he thinks going on in the market with this.
Yeah, nobody really knows. So here's the deal. I'm still cold calling. I'm still cold texting. Nothing's changed with my business. However, I'm taking proactive steps now to build out a more routine direct mail marketing budget and campaign, as well as a more routine marketing campaign for my pay-per-click, right? Amongst a couple other things too. I'm not stopping the cold calling and the cold text. And let's be honest, right? I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that I am. I'm doing it, right? But when these changes take effect, it could be minor, minimal, and hopefully it is, but it could be major. I mean, it could essentially disrupt that marketing method. And again, we don't really know yet how that's going to look.
I've heard, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that you're going to have to register your phone numbers.
Yeah. So what did Matt say? Matt said just going to be registered campaigns, can't rotate numbers, shouldn't be that bad. If anything, people who keep doing it will probably do amazing. Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I don't disagree.
Here's one more comment. We registered with the phone carriers last week. It's simple. They just want to know what your text messages are, blah, blah, blah. Right. So that's not so much the issue, having to register. It's the liability.
Right.
I think it went from 2 years to 4 years that people can go back and sue you. There is greater visibility. A lot of companies that were cold texting, they, let's just be honest, they're shadows, right? They're operating in the shadows. They're not necessarily disclosing what their company is until they actually get a potential lead on the phone to avoid liability. You're not going to be able to do that. Now you're going to have a big spotlight on, this is who I am, sending the message to you. And if you have a potential litigator, they're going to have a lot more visibility on who you are and how to go after you. And that's
also the statute of limitations. So Matt says, Matt says we do know. Okay, cool, Matt. I'm not arguing with you by any means, and I appreciate you being here, but you don't know, because here's the deal, man. Once this takes effect and you register your campaigns, you think, okay, hey, nothing's really changed. I just registered my campaigns. Well, that's fine. But the statute of limitations is 4 years, I believe. Am I right, guys?
It went from 2 to 4, I believe.
Went from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, if you do have the litigators, they're going to have more time to essentially come in and litigate. Right.
Yeah.
They also are going to have more transparency. It's going to be easier for them. So again, I'm not stopping. Don't take this conversation as, necessarily anything too crazy. It's, it's really, if anything, it's a warning. Hey, things are changing. Let's obviously comply. I hate getting spammed with things that I don't want either. So at the same time, I'm kind of on both sides of this. Like, hey, this is the most cost-effective marketing. But at the same time, I personally don't like getting texts or emails from people that I don't know either. So again, there's two sides to it, of course, but I have heard of more and more people recently, I'm sure you guys have as well, that have had issues. They've been sued or have lawsuits, anywhere from $8,000 to $20,000 for calling or texting somebody that they weren't supposed to. And again, I think it's super rare. You hear of 1 or 2 people from time to time. And let's be, how many people are out there cold calling and cold texting every day? I mean, tens of thousands, right? Maybe even hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands, right? So so the numbers are very, very low. But what's going to happen, I think, is when this takes effect, these here's the thing. It's empowering litigators to start coming after you more, because they have more time to do it and they have more transparency into who you are. So again, I'm not going to stop necessarily, but I think it does definitely make sense, guys, to explore.
It's just, you got to just keep your eye on it, right? I mean,
well, the $1 question is litigation just going to become the cost of doing business, or is litigation for you and your business something that's to take your legs out from under you?
100%. And we know people, I do, I don't know about you guys, well, you do know who they are. But they'll go, I'll pay 20 grand fine, no problem, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because they're making way more money to, like, if I get caught, I'll just pay the fine. Now, again, as us teaching, as educators, we can't be sending you down to go and get sued, right? But I'm just saying what people are saying that are in the business, they don't care. And they're just like, whatever, just pay it. Yeah. Because guess what? We just made 100 grand.
Yeah. So Matt says, if you're blasting out more than 10K texts per day, it will probably affect you. So here's my rebuttal, though. If you're sending out 500 texts a day, why would it be any different than 10,000 texts a day? I mean, it only takes that one bad apple. So, obviously it's going to take longer to get
He's
that.
He's just saying probability, isn't he?
Yeah, and I'm not arguing
off volume.
Again, I appreciate that you're here.
Matt's a good dude. Matt's actually, but somebody that I've been talking to and working.
Oh yeah, I'm happy that he's here and commenting. Absolutely. And I'm not trying to argue by any means, but I don't necessarily think I agree with that. 10,000 texts per day. Well, that just means it's going to be more likely.
Let's get Matt on next week. Let's have it
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I mean, it only takes that
things.
one bad apple is really what I'm getting at.
I always use the analogy, like, okay, in marketing, right? If it takes you 13,000 postcards on average to get a deal in your market, and you're only sending 1,000 a month, the likelihood of you getting a deal in a year is slim. But I always say a broken clock is right twice a day. You may hit it out of the park on your first mailing of 1,000 pieces. You just may step in it, right? And it's the same thing with litigation. The more you do, the more likely you are to get the litigation versus the less you do. But a broken clock is right twice a day. There may be an opportunity where you just step in it on the first blast you do, and that's just it's just the law of averages,
Yeah.
We years ago we did bandit signs in Jacksonville, Florida, right? And we hired a guy that puts up signs every single day for another business that he does. And I'm like, hey, we need some signs putting up, and he was down to do it. The first sign he stuck in, we got the police pulled up, we got fined, right? The first, and this guy does it every single day. The first sign on the first intersection he was doing, we got a fine that we had to pay. And it's just like, it's just the luck of the draw, and he couldn't even believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a question here that takes us in a different direction. So from Justin Smith, should I go virtual? I'm in Northern California, and it seems like every potential lead has been hammered many times already. Any suggestions? Justin, I'm in California, so I think I'm probably the most qualified to throw this at you. I don't know what part of Northern California you mean, whether that's like Sacramento or Modesto, or if that's the Bay Area. I will tell you, in Northern California, the Bay Area part of California, there's a lot of competition. You have a more sophisticated seller. Your entry-level home is usually $500,000 to $1 million, depending on what market you're in. So when somebody has 10% equity, you're talking about, $100,000 in equity on $1 million home, versus like in Fresno, where our median home value is now $315,000. If they have 10% equity, they have $30,000 in equity. So you're going to have a buyer that has more, or seller that has more options in the Bay. It's going to be a little harder to find deals. I will say this: Sacramento, perfect, which is still less competitive than the Bay, but it's still a fairly competitive market. I've done a lot of flips in Sacramento. In Sacramento, in the Bay Area, when you hit a deal, you're usually going to hit it out of the park. You're going to have a very, very good margin compared to the rest of the country, but you're going to spend a little bit more money and do a little bit more work turning the dirt to get the gold. So the $1 million question about going virtual, I still think Sacramento area is a great market to be in. Like I said, I've done quite a few deals there. I made a lot of money there. It is competitive. You just got to look at like what's your budget and your bandwidth. There are, like, we're in Tennessee, right? We're constantly doing deals in Tennessee, but they're all base hits. They're all base hits. So we're doing more work for the same amount of money that we'd make doing deals just in California, if that makes sense. So we do, I guess, less work. We're doing more marketing, spending a little more money, but we're doing less work, right? When we're wholesaling or rehabbing in California, we're making more money because our spreads are bigger in California. So I would ultimately, at the end of the day, look at your budget, look at your bandwidth, and make a decision, make a determination from that as to whether or not I would be going into a new market and do it virtually at the end of the day. I hope I'm clear on answering that. I mean, you're going to turn a little bit more dirt. You're going to get more gold in California. You're going to turn less dirt, but you're going to get smaller pieces of gold in other states. Your marketing budget's going to be less in other states, but your profit margin is going to be less as well. So you just got to determine what your ultimate goals are, what your bandwidth is, what your budget is. And then
I love that last part. You nailed it right there. So, should I go virtual? Well, pros and cons. And really, it depends upon what's your exit. Or what's your goal? If your goal is to get a fix and flip, it's probably not a good idea to be marketing in Idaho if you live in Northern California, like, unless you plan on driving there or doing that particular part of the business virtual. So are you just trying to wholesale? Then it really doesn't matter if you're doing it locally or if you're doing it, virtually. But if you're trying to buy rental properties, where are you trying to buy those at? So definitely some pros and cons. But like you said,
I think for me is, if you're not going to have the budget, if you're not willing to spend on the marketing, of up to, in my opinion, $5,000+ a month in that market, if you're not willing to do that, you should 100% go virtual. especially for wholesale. If you're not doing creative finance, I'd go virtual. I'd learn the trade. I'd go and make money. I'd hone your skill, and then I would bring it back to California. That's what I would do personally.
It's again, it's balance, right? I mean, it's so much easier to learn a market in your backyard, than it is to do it virtually. But like our cost per deal is significantly less in Tennessee than it is in California, but our margins are also half. Our profits are also half.
That's what I was just going to ask. Here in St. Louis, our average wholesale is probably $8,000, but the caveat is we cherry pick all the best deals and we don't wholesale them. We keep them as rentals and we keep them as fix and flips. So if I was to remove that from the equation, it's probably going to be somewhere around 12 to 15 grand, on a wholesale here. Don, what is the average wholesale in Fresno, California?
We're averaging about 25,000.
25,000. It's double, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gavin.
And we're averaging 12 in Tennessee, just to throw in there.
So there you go. So 12 in Tennessee, roughly, 8 to 12 here in St. Louis, depending on if you're cherry picking, 20 to 25 in Fresno. Gavin, what about your markets? What's your average wholesale fee?
So for Bama, you're looking just on the wholesale, probably about 15,000. And then, but obviously that's not including the ones that we flip. Because normally if it's a good deal, we'll take it down ourselves.
Exactly. So you're cherry picking too, right? And that pulls your numbers down. I often have to remind myself that I am good at this business and I know what I'm doing, right? Because I'm like, man, all my buddies are getting $25,000 wholesales and we get them sometimes too, right? But we're cherry picking the best deals. So it's pulling down those averages, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's going to affect your wholesales or your profit spreads too. Are you cherry picking those the best deals for your personal fix and flips or, your personal rentals as well? So that's a great question. And really, I think it all circles back to the goal. There's really no right or wrong answer to that question. There's just pros and cons both ways, right? So what's the goal? Are you just looking to wholesale? You're going to have way bigger spreads locally in California, but it's going to be few and far between. Whereas if you go to the Midwest or just somewhere outside of California, it's probably going to be easier to come across the deals, but you're going to have to do more deals to make the same amount of money. So excellent question. Thank you for asking.
Really good.
Yeah, really good. Absolutely. I like that a lot. That's good.
Awesome. What time are we at? Okay, we're at time. What are you guys? Well, Don, I think he stepped away real quick. I've got another call right now. What have you got? Have we got a hard stop?
Not necessarily, but maybe let's go another 5 or 10. How's that sound?
All right. I'm gonna have to get off in a minute, but I'm gonna wait for him to come back.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Guys, I definitely want to recommend going and checking out our free resources. I was up till about 2 a.m. last night working on this site. It's going to be a work in progress, of course, but head on over to Coffee with Closers Live. On that page, you will see that we have some free resources as well as some of our secret weapons. So we have a wholesale contract over there that we're giving away. We have a joint venture agreement over there we're giving away. And this is all 100% free, by the way. We have an assignment agreement and a seller lead sheet. So these 4 things are things that myself, Gavin, and Don are actually using in our own business right now, which is awesome. We do have a Facebook group that's linked in there too. And then we have 2 of our secret weapons linked in here right now. And we'll be adding more of this stuff as time goes on. But Batch Leads is literally one of my favorite software tools for real estate investing. Right now, they're giving away 5,000 property records for free, along with a 7-day free trial. Again, you can find more information about that over on our website. And then Batch Driven is also another one of my favorite driving for dollars softwares. And they are actually giving away 100 free skip traces if you use the promotional link that we have over on the website. So I love both these services. I'm using both of these services in my business daily. And one quick note about Batch Leads. Batch Leads is probably my number one favorite software at this point. It's my favorite tool for investing. And the reason is because of the match savings. And we had mentioned this the other day, but I did a bunch of skip tracing this week. And I saved about $500 by not skip tracing the same lead that I already owned. And $500, to some people that's nothing. Some people that's a ton.
Yeah, but
right?
it adds up, doesn't it? That's
it
the
adds
key.
up. But the
regardless if it's a lot of money or not,
and that's
over a year,
it adds up, right? And basically, I spend probably about $500 a month on my software, like on the the monthlies and the fees within it. So in theory, if you the more you use it, the more you're going to save, right? Because you're already going to have the data. But it's to the point now, and I'm probably about, I don't know, a year in or so, maybe a little longer with batch leads. But the savings I get from the match savings more than pays for my spend. So, I mean, look at it that way. The more you use it, the more you're going to save. And essentially, it's going to make that software become, free. Now, again, there's a catch there because you're still paying for it, but you're getting that money back elsewhere. So highly recommend that. Go check out coffeewithcloserslive.com for those resources. We're going to be adding some new stuff to that. We're going to be adding in some information about the mastermind. And then, of course, some of the other secret weapons. And if you guys ever need anything that's not on there, reach out, let us know. You can also send a text to Flip at 314-310-5221. And that's probably going to be the best place to connect with us outside of our individual social medias. From there, we can actually have communications and correspondence with you in there. And if there's a resource that we don't have on our site that you want, shoot us a text. Let us know what that is, and we will do our best to get that added.
Love it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's probably wrap it up for today. Anybody that's on, thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you asking questions. That's what this is all about. It's to help you guys become better investors. And of course, we have fun doing it. So that's it. That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.